1. It was a nice Wednesday afternoon, and I was in the zone that day. I had 5 tables, and everyone wanted nothing. My expo was on point, and the hosts were keeping the wait under 10 minutes, good times. Until it wasn't. For those who don't know, most times restaurants aren't only allowed to serve steaks rare or medium rare. Burger patties are supposed to be medium, medium well, or well in order to kill off any bacteria in the ground beef. My workplace played somewhat fast and loose with the rules, however, and you could get a medium rare burger, if you were feeling risky and asked nicely. If a burger was ordered medium rare, we would ask the guest to cut into the burger patty upon delivery of the food, in order to ensure it wasn't too undercooked. And everyone was aware of this standard procedure. Okay, pretext over, time for the story. So I pull another server's table's foot off the line on this fine Wednesday, and head towards the couple with my best fake smile plastered on my face. Halfway there I notice Mead Rare Mr. check with the table, all exclamation points on the ticket. And I just had a fiasco a few days prior where I had to apologize to someone else not checking with my table. So what with me being freshly traumatized and in the zone, I am very motivated to make sure this dude got his burger just the way he wanted it. I deliver it to the table and ask him to cut into it. He then takes his knife and makes maybe a millimeter deep cut into the side of the patty. That's not the way you check how a burger is done, because the outside is going to be totally cooked. I'm thinking, yeah, if I walk away he's just going to complain. I need to see that sweet, sweet medium rare juice with my own eyes. So I urge him, nah man, really, get in there, let's make sure it's a little red for you. To this day, I will never know what about that sentence provoked the reaction I got. Something within that man broke right then. Maybe it had been slowly eroding, maybe it broke all at once, I don't know. One ham fist was raised high into the air and brought down with the force of 1,000 Karens. This poor burger. What was once a delicious Southern charm burger was now a decimated pile of carbs and deliberately undercooked bovine. He just mashed the hell out of it like the goddamn Hulk in Avengers 1 several times before screaming, "I want my check!" Silverware flew, mead rare juice squirted, balloons popped. It was quite a scene. I was quite taken aback. So even with my paltry amount of wit and charm, I effectively just ran for my life. The manager comped his meal, and entitlement won the day, as it often goes. But that's not the end of the story, oh no. 2 years go by, and that story has been the classic, oh boy, do I have a story for you story I would always tell when someone wanted a workplace horror story. And it always got some good laughs. Naturally, it's hilarious Hulk Smash Guy, I called him. Obviously he never came back, until he did. Again, he sat in someone else's section, and I'm running around telling my coworkers, whom I've told this story to multiple times, that the infamous Hulk Smash Guy has returned. Everyone goes, takes a peek, and has their chuckle, until one of the older, more politically inclined bartenders comes back to me laughing his ass off and says, "Dude, that's the mayor." I stopped laughing about 20 minutes later, and had to give up 3 tables. Good times. I moved out of that city. 2. Just when I think I've seen the weirdest stuff I'll ever see on the job, something like last night happens. We were closing up, I was just finishing wiping down the tables, when a guy came in. A supplier was dropping off a bunch of boxes, and their truck didn't fit around the side of the building, so the cooks were loading the things into the kitchen through the front door. All of a sudden, this older guy walked in, took a chair off the table, we flip them upside down at the end of the day, once the table's taken care of to clean the floors, and sat down. I figured it was just one of the delivery guys taking a load off, so kept doing what I was doing. It struck me as a bit odd that a guy like that would be making deliveries, a lot older, not too steady on his feet. But I figured not my place to judge, work is work. Plus, maybe he was a driver and the cab of the truck didn't have good AC or something. After pontificating on it for about 30 seconds, I got back to what I needed to do so I could get home. Maybe 10, 15 total minutes passed in that time before this guy calls out, pretty testily in hindsight, "Excuse me." I pop over, like, "Yes, can I help you with something?" "Yeah, I'm ready to order." Puzzled and genuinely not connecting the dots, I asked, "Order what?" And he starts rattling off menu items, 2 chicken tacos, a side of corn, Diet Coke. And I stop him, first replaying his words in my mind to be sure he isn't trying to make a funny joke that's fallen flat, and say cautiously, we're closed, gesturing broadly to our clearly shut down restaurant. Well, how's that my problem? I've been waiting and it's like you're ignoring me. You can't be too busy, I'm the only table. I reassessed the situation again, trying to gauge if maybe he had dementia or something, but he was older, like 60s max, not your usual I can't grasp basic reality age. So I said again, this time being explicitly clear to rule out the possibility of a misunderstanding. Sir, as you can see, we're closed. Lights are mostly off, food's not being served. Sign on the door reads closed, starting to get the picture. Yeah, but the door was open, and you're here. Now let me clarify. This was not a we close at 10 and it's 9:55 type situation, or even a we close at 10 and it's 10:05. This was we close at 10 and it's 11:15. So I told the guy, well, that's true, but just because we're here doesn't mean we're open. I'm cleaning up. The cooks are cleaning up. The kitchen shut down for the night. We're out of most of the food too. They're actually just processing a delivery. I was being more patient with him than I probably ought to have been because it was a welcome bizarre distraction while I refilled condiments and all those other extra boring parts of the job. He knew I'd taken the bait, I guess, because he immediately retorted, fine, if you're out of most of the food, I'll take whatever food you're not out of. So then I did pump the brakes for a second, because our restaurant is known for citing free dinners to the homeless, so I thought maybe he needed some assistance and was too prideful to ask straight out. But not only was he pretty well off looking, expensive clothes, freshly showered, the kitchen really was shut down. The best I could have gotten him was like a bag of tortillas at that point. And certainly not by way of table service. But I figured better safe than sorry. I didn't have anywhere to be, so I said, look, if you need assistance finding food, I can write down the names of some places. He seemed genuinely bewildered, and he replies, what are you on about? Why would I need a list like that when we're in a restaurant right now as we speak? The delivery was processed at this point, and I could see my way clear to go home in the next 15 minutes or so, which quickly drained any entertainment I was having from going back and forth with this guy. Look, if you don't leave, I'll have to call the cops. He was unfazed. He just says, call them. I'm a patron in a restaurant. I'm not breaking the law. My money's just as green as anyone else's. I have a right to be here. Then one of my only sort of friends at work, a cook named Lenny, was preparing to leave. He's pretty massive in size, stature, and demeanor. So I stopped him and said I needed him to wait with me because this guy wouldn't leave and the police were coming. But I didn't want to be alone with him. Lenny looks at the guy, and falling for the same trap I did, goes, well, what does he want? The guy speaks over me and barks, some service! Lenny cuts him off and goes, well, we're closed, come back tomorrow. The guy, really failing to read the room or recognize his limitations, starts trying to shout over Lenny, talking to him in a slow, sarcastic voice, like he was explaining something to someone who didn't speak English and being a dick about it. 2 chicken tacos. Lenny wasn't having any of that. He just pulled a double. He slammed his fists on the table, which almost caused it to flip, and shouted louder than this guy had probably heard anything in his life. No, I am going home now. Come back tomorrow if you want that. Now leave so I can go home. Then, just to be sure they were clear, mimicking the guy's same slow, sarcastic tone, but 10,000 times louder, Lenny emphasized, get out, now! Well, maybe the guy was just hard of hearing because he seemed to understand that perfectly clear. He raced out of the building and down the block and didn't stop until he was well out of eyesight. I wouldn't have ever thought much more about it had he not come back. Today, yes, when we were open, he returned and demanded to speak to a manager. That's actually me now. So then he demanded to speak to the owner. Luckily for him, the owner spends most of his time here because he likes to get down into it serving customers and being in the mix. He tried to make a complaint that we all refused to serve him just because it was outside normal business hours. Yes, that was more or less verbatim his complaint. His argument being, they were here, I was willing to pay. As though that isn't already implied. There's no reason they couldn't have just whipped up my order right quick. I was the only customer here. He proceeded to use that last point to call us lazy, slackers, and on and on. Our owner is usually the most understanding, loyal purveyor you'll find. But even he left this guy out of his office. He swears we've lost his business. I think we can live without it. One of the earlier shift girls recognized him when he returned today as a Blue Plate Special regular, who always requests a lot of substitutions and sends food back without explanation. So actually, I'm sure we can survive without it. I don't know how some of these people became so entitled, but at least he didn't really keep us late. And I got a good story. 3. Okay, so I was recently promoted to supervisor. I've done everything else in the restaurant, so even though I'm not a server, I'm looking for some help. I was promoted at the same time as this girl Liz. Liz and I are scheduled together, so we can help each other. Because we're both new to supervising. Okay, fine. I usually work till 9-ish p.m. Liz typically comes in around 5 p.m. and stays till close. So I do lunch with someone else, and we both work dinner. Supervisors don't get breaks, but we can go eat whenever we want, and eat whatever we want within reason for free. The first thing Liz said to me our first supervising shift was, "Now that we're supervisors, we can eat wherever we want for free." I said, "Yep," or something. I thought it was kind of weird. Liz works another job before she comes in. So guess what she does right after she starts? Tells me she's starving and needs to eat quick. Which would be fine if it was something quick, but it never is. It's always a full meal, she tells me after. Then I'm starting dinner rush by myself. By the time she gets done, it's really 5:30 to 6, and I'm in the middle of 5 things when she wants me to fill her in on the day. What management said, if anyone called in, etc. Around 7:30, she just walks away and has a snack. The other day, I was helping a server, and another server needed something. Liz was nowhere to be found. I said, "Where's Liz?" "Downstairs eating." When things slowed down a bit later, I had to get something from the basement, and she was down there eating a tray of nachos and playing on her phone. Whenever I'm getting ready to leave, she says, "Oh, can you wait so I can eat first? Because I won't get to once you go home." It's been about a month of this, and it's getting old. I asked off the next weekend. She begged me all shift yesterday to tell them I can work it because she won't be able to handle it. They'll have another supervisor with her, it's not like she'll be by herself. When I work days before she comes in, it's like a treat because I'm not picking up someone else's slack. It's not about her eating, it's the fact that she's disappearing several times a shift. I'd be annoyed if she was disappearing to talk on the phone or have a cigarette, and I'm basically inhaling any food I eat while working so I'm not putting more work on other people. Plus, I wait till we're slow. I don't know if I should say something to our manager, or just let it go. 4. This is back several years ago. I still feel good about it whenever I remember it. Glad I stood up for myself and didn't take this crap. I worked as a waiter in a smallish cafe and restaurant. The inside probably had 12 to 14 tables, 2 of which seated 6 to 8. The outside, which only opened on nice days, had another 6 to 8 tables in front, and another 2 to 3 in the rear. I was scheduled alone on a Tuesday for the lunch shift. Normally this would be fairly slow. I could expect to have 6 to 10 tables at the same time, but generally staggered enough that it was manageable. The aforementioned manager was a nightmare. She had a reputation for making employees cry over trivial matters. She refused to supply us properly. They had one tiny calculator with the numbers worn off that everyone was supposed to share, and no proper register or point-of-sale system. Training consisted of showing up on your first day and just figuring it out yourself. I suspect she got the job because she was also dating the owner. She sure as hell wasn't qualified. This manager decided that the best way to balance the load on the kitchen, which was downstairs, and keep orders flowing was to create a very stupid rule. Only one ticket at a time could be presented to the kitchen. Even if you seated several tables at once and took their orders one after the other, and ensured that the tickets were presented to the kitchen in the correct order. No. You had to walk your ass down the stairs, give them your ticket, walk back up the stairs, turn around, and walk back down with your second ticket, as many times as necessary. She very specifically stated this last part. You literally had to walk up and down the stairs repeatedly. This Tuesday gifted the town with unusually nice weather for this time of year. We got slammed. I had every table inside seated, and the manager insisted on opening up both the front and rear porches, and expected me to handle it all. I immediately began strategizing. I talked to the kitchen and told them there's no way I would walk up and down the stairs that many times. Would they be okay if I gave them, say, 3 tickets at a time so we can get through this rush? The cooks were very chill, and we had always gotten along. None of that front-rear or of the house drama. They insisted that it was absolutely fine, that the manager's role was stupid anyway and didn't actually help them. So I started my plan, and I was killing it, sailing through the tables, getting everyone seated, drinks, orders in a timely fashion. It was fucking wild, and my adrenaline was through the roof, but nobody was getting crab service. As I'm bringing down my 3rd or 4th set of tickets, the manager stops me on the stairs, her face red. I told you to fucking take the fucking tickets one at a fucking time, and you will walk your ass up and down these stairs as many fucking times as fucking necessary. Do you understand? Well, yeah, you can't talk to me like that. Fuck this. I calmly took a breath, and then I took a step forward so we were face to face. Okay, you can't talk to me like that. Secondly, we are so slammed we have to do something or service will go to absolute shit. Also, I have spoken with the kitchen, who you claim to be protecting with your system, and they don't need it. They are quite happy with me bringing them multiple tickets while we're slammed. There's no other way this can work when I have over 20 tables. And consider this my 2 weeks' notice. Finally, talk to me like that again, and see what happens. Now I realize in hindsight as a man I shouldn't have said the last part to a woman. I really did not mean that I would physically harm her, but I realize how it sounds. People tend to see me as a gentle, somewhat gender-neutral guy, so I wasn't thinking about that aspect of it. At any rate, she didn't speak to me again, and I was able to finish out my shift successfully. At the end of my shift, the owner of the restaurant approached me. He was known for being a friendly, jovial Irishman, but an absolute hard-ass during busy times, or if you crossed him. I thought for sure he was going to yell at me as well, especially after I had it out with his girlfriend, who was my superior. Hey, I just want to say, really nice job getting through that rush, and I'm sorry to see you go. If you ever need a reference, don't hesitate to give them my number. And sorry about, you know. I couldn't believe it. I had always liked the owner, but this gave me a whole new level of respect for him. I went home feeling high on life and recorded one of my favorite DJ mixes to date. Of course, I titled it 2 weeks' notice. Felt on top of the world, despite being jobless. 5. So this happened last weekend, and I'm still laughing a bit. I worked second shift at a waffle-type breakfast place. I was on third shift, but we shut down after the only other server quit, and we had to call the cops too many times. So the basic rules of any establishment is first come, first served. We have a set of rules, 10s, 5s, and 7s. One of our rules is hot food first, which... duh. I'm the only waitress. I've got people at almost every booth in this place. I'm calling table 1's food when someone I used to work with comes in with her fiancé and son. They sit at booth 11. So as I'm getting their drink orders, a couple in their late 40s come in and sit at the booth behind them. Table 1 had their food come up right as I went to make the drinks. I obviously carry my hot food out, make sure they're all set, and everything looks good. Then I make the drinks. She's ready to order, so I take their order, call it in, and then go to table 12. She's already huffy because I guess I didn't rush to her table fast enough. Her husband was busy moving their bikes from Texas Roadhouse parking lot to our parking lot. Now, since third shift is closed, they don't make me make the tea. So if we run out, then we are out. I could make the tea, but on average around 2 people will ask for this during my shift. I would essentially use maybe 1/3 of the sweet tea, if that, so I don't make it since it's a waste. This lady asks for a sweet tea, and I explain to her that we are out. I don't even get to offer anything else, and she gets mad and goes, "We're leaving, let's go." This is the South, so I do what every good Southern soul does, and I tell them to have a good day and walk away. I guess she wasn't expecting me to not offer to make a whole thing of sweet tea or something. It's like 6:30 and we're gonna lock the doors in an hour and a half. I'm not making sweet tea. She was the first person to ask for it that day. She proceeds to tell me that she's reporting me, so I tell her that's fine with a polite smile. My favorite part was when she goes, "I know them, okay, really well." Ma'am, everyone that works at the House of Waffles in this part of the state and a few in the state next over all know the owner. He visits every store for major holidays and does pop-in visits. This man knows every single one of us. I have worked for him for 6 years. But please report me. Be sure to tell them I was taking out my hot food. And I was taking care of the table that came in before you. I love when other people tell my job that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I went ahead and told my manager, and she laughed and said, okay. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spitting Plates, episode 142. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you liked the video, then please do hit the like button and leave a comment, and share the video around with your friends and family. But only your friends and family. If I hear you've been sharing this with anybody else, you'll get a visit and a hug after I get my next vaccination, which is on Monday. A couple of weeks after that, should have as much protection as I'm going to get. Lovely. Okay, date. This goes up Saturday. That's the 3rd. I swear it's getting hotter at night. Gonna have to get this second fan in working order soon. I guess in the corner over there. It just needs a quick wipe down and plugged it in. It should be okay. Well, the base might be a bit dodgy. I would love it if we had air conditioning, but it's not really something we ever have in the UK. Infrastructure, you know. If we had hot weather more consistently, then it probably would be a thing. But, you know, or bits like inbuilt air conditioning, central air, that sort of thing. Is that a thing? I'm sure I've heard of that. You don't really get that as commonly in the UK. Not in residential areas, anyway. Okay, I'm gonna stop yammering. It's the heat, I swear. It's the heat that's making me do it. Bad heat, very bad. Ooh, bagging my finger. And I'm gonna head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.